It's 6 Go podcast brought to you by Men's Sports. Seeves, how are you, mates?
I'm good, mate.
Now, let's start with last night's game. We've been away for a little bit. I was in Brisbane for a week, so a bit of catching up to do. We'll start off last night, though, the Cowboys and the Sharks. How could you possibly, if you're Craig Fitzgibbon, change this lineup going forward?
Yeah, man, they looked good last night. The first 30 minutes was a cracking game of footy. I thought it was unreal. And then you could sense it about 15 before half-time. Cronulla started to get the upper hand. And a couple of things happened where the Cowboys had a couple of decisions go against them, and then they made a mistake. There was a silly offload, I think it might have been, and you could see Cronulla just came with a wave.
I thought the Sharks' kicking game was on point from the start, and the Cowboys did get 2 out of the first 3 penalties, and I thought that sort of confused the game where it was at, because
it was funny that, wasn't it? They were home team penalties as well.
Yes, exactly. And I thought Cronulla really had the meterage game working for them in the first 15 minutes. It's just that those penalties sort of backed them up a little bit from gaining the momentum. But Nico and Braden Trindle, their kicking game was superb, particularly Trindle. Yeah,
Trindle's kicking game was really good. The 40-20 in the second half, then he backed it up with a repeat set. I think it was the next set. He forced that dropout. He was excellent. I don't think Nico was good, don't get me wrong, but Nico didn't have to be outstanding last night because everyone did their job. Wade Graham was unreal.
He turned back the clock.
Yeah, he last week as well.
And he had to, because they've had a few injuries, Cronulla, particularly in the forwards, with Teague Wilton going down. I thought Teague was doing a pretty good job, but for Wade Graham to come in and do what he did last night, they needed that performance by him, and he stood up.
He's elite. He is elite. He's one of the greats of the game, and obviously he hasn't had the best 18 months, but that little bit of time where he's been away this year with some injuries, and I think he got suspended as well, it might have freshened him up just for that one last burst. And I still don't think Cronulla are anywhere near a title favourite, because it's a false economy. Cowboys aren't that good. We've been saying it for a few weeks. But that was impressive last night, the way they played.
And sorry to cut you off, but Connor Tracy...
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he's just a ball of energy, really, at the back. And this is not a bash up on Will Kennedy, but to me, they look a different team.
They do. They both have that blistering speed off the mark, but I do think that Connor Tracy's got a slightly better passing game. So he creates a little bit more. That
first try he set up on the left-hand side, he had to dummy, which faked the centre out and then threw the ball. That was all class.
He's different to Kennedy as well. So I said they're both lightning off the mark. Tracy's almost Reece Walsh speed. Now, I'm not comparing the two at all because there's no comparison. But he's almost Reece Walsh speed, where you think you've got him covered, and in 2 steps, he finds another gear, and all of a sudden, he's created a 3-on-2. He's way too good to play reserve grade.
I was thinking about this last night. There are 5 or 6 clubs right now that would absolutely sign up for Connor Tracy to be their fullback next year.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely... And again, is he a bit of Dejan Arce, where he can do this 2 or 3 times, even 4 times, but then once you've got to do it 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row, that's when you realise, okay, there's a reason they've been playing reserve grade most of their career. So he needs to keep doing it.
Maybe if you think of teams like the Dragons, the Tigers, the Raiders, all these clubs,
they're chasing a fullback.
The Bulldogs. So the fact that they've got Trindle and Tracy to come in, and it's a strength of depth, and it's a reason why they've been able to sort of resurrect their season, having this depth behind them.
100%. And also, too, I think last night showed, every now and again, Talakai has a bad defensive game. But there's a reason he played Origin. He has to be in that 13 every week, because his go-forward off Cronulla's line is outstanding. He gets them on the front foot.
Let's talk about the Cowboys. They've clearly run out of juice, in my opinion. And we've seen this for a couple of weeks now. The bye came at a great time for them last week. They had 2 losses in a row. They go, okay, let's get a bye, refresh. We've got to win these games heading into the semi-final. We've got to go again. They weren't able to do that. They were at home against a Sharks team who, let's be honest, has struggled the past few weeks, apart from the win last week.
Yeah.
So to not win that game is, It's not a nail in the coffin just yet, but I tell you what, it's pretty bloody close.
Yeah, and if they make it, they're making up numbers. Look, I don't want to be negative, but I'm going to be.
Yep.
The Cowboys, it's a false economy. That's 2 out of the last 3 years, and I'm ruling them out. They're not making the finals.
No, I don't think so.
So that's 2 out of the last 3 years they haven't made the finals. At times, they've looked disgraceful. They went on that run last year where they full credit to them, they were unreal at times last year. But I don't think they're fit enough again. So 2 years ago, they didn't look fit.
Yep.
Now they don't look fit. They run out of puff. At the back end of games, they run out of puff. Yeah, they had to go on that run, but who did they really beat? In the end, are they finishing where they should?
I agree, and they got wins against teams like Penrith. Penrith had 9 guys out with State of Origin.
That's right. Dragons, as the coach, got sacked.
Yes.
Because I'm just going through it here, having a quick look. And you've got to remember, too, that during that period, the Cowboys, while they had a presence in Origin, they didn't lose that many players to Origin. So they still were fielding a very good squad each week.
Yes. And apart from Game 3 where Reece Robson went, their spine was fully intact.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
So, and again, I don't want to be the negative one, but I am going to be this afternoon. I thought the Cowboys showed their age last night with a few of their players, and I hate to call retirement on a few players, but I think a few are coming.
Yeah, I agree.
And one person that I don't think will retire, but I certainly thought he was below his best last night was Tamalolo. He didn't have the impact that he has had in previous games, months, years, whatever. But the two I want to highlight, Chad Townsend and Peter Hiku, I think their time at the Cowboys is very much done. And whether or not an NRL team picks up Chad Townsend, I'm not quite sure. But going forward, they've signed Clifford for next year. I don't think that they should stop the hunt for another half, but I would be going with the Clifford-Dearden combination at this moment.
I could argue Townsend. I could argue another year or so out of him. Yeah, he wasn't great last night, but the Cowboys weren't great.
He's not going to win your premiership, though, is he?
No, but are they going to win a premiership?
I think the window was there, for this year, but potentially. I think a few players though their time has come.
Hiku definitely. Now Tamalolo, while he wasn't great last night, I did hear a stat with about 8 minutes to go that he was the only Cowboy to run over 100 metres.
Well, that's embarrassing for the rest of the Cowboys.
That's right. So, but it's also showing that, in perspective, he's still probably their best go-forward man. Oh,
of course. There are a couple of areas, though, where they can make instant change to get some improvement, I think, and that is Cohen Hess and Griffin Neame can't come off the bench at the same time. They just miss too many tackles.
Yeah.
So the fact that when Cotter goes off, they just fall to pieces, really. So I think Hess has to start for that respect, and I just don't think you can have both those guys coming off the bench at the same time, because that was the period in the middle of the game, that middle 20 minutes where Cronulla
that's when Cronulla really, like you said, took off, but it was their middles that came on.
Royce Hunt scored a try.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the big Hazelton.
Yes, exactly.
He's a big, strong man.
So they've just gone straight through the middle of them twice.
That's right, yeah.
So there are some instant changes there that I think you might see next week, but the problem for them is they're going to come up across Penrith in the last round.
And look,
they need all sorts of things to go their way.
Even if Penrith rest everyone, which Penrith aren't, they're not renowned as a team that rests blokes the week before the semis. Melbourne will.
Yeah.
But Penrith haven't really done that in the past. So there's a chance Penrith will be playing for another minor premiership. So they're not going to be going easy.
That's right. And even if they do rest players, we saw the Cowboys had to go to Golden Point to beat them.
Yeah, true.
So even if there's a couple there, they might still get the win. We'll move on to previous results over the course of the week. Actually, before we do that, I just want to talk about the contract news during the week. So Payne Haas extended. Yeah. I thought Brisbane was the only legitimate chance for Payne Haas. For me, and I texted you about this during the week, if you're a Storm or a different club, right, so you're negotiating with Payne for 2025.
Yes.
So there's a full year there where you're not going to get him. Now, I know Payne's a beast.
Yeah.
But I couldn't validate signing a player for a year out when their number one trait is an athletic trait. His athleticism is his number one trait.
And physicality. He's a big, strong thing.
That's right. So it's not like you're signing a Cameron Smith who's a genius.
Yeah.
But he's not. It's the same with like a Tamalolo or just anyone whose number one trait is a physical ability. So the Broncos were the only team in the end.
Yeah, I think they went over us.
Yeah.
And during the week when we were talking about it, I was adamant I'd pay $1 million, 1.1 for him, wouldn't even think twice. But 1.3 is starting to get to that. Oh, it's a little bit too much. But we need to also remember that we're looking at 2025, 26, 27. So we're looking at those years where the salary cap is going to continue to go up. So 1.1 in a year is probably 800 now. And 1.3 in 3 years is potentially, the equivalent of $1 million, 1.1 now. So, those things are or do need to be put into perspective when we do think about this and argue the point, because it is all relative. Things will continue to go up. Where I think the Broncos are going to find it really tough is Walsh's salary has to double immediately.
Oh, it'll go more than that. He's only on $350,000.
Ezra Mann, his wage, it has to double immediately, because I think he's only on about 200.
Yes.
So it's got to double, and potentially, there'd be some clubs out there that'd throw $500,000, 600 at him tomorrow.
Yes.
Wouldn't even think twice.
And just going back on a previous conversation, that's something with Tom Dearden that the Cowboys need to be in trouble with as well. If I'm Tom Dearden, there's no way I'm signing any deal right now. I'm absolutely going to market purely for a financial.
Oh, well, yeah, why not? That's
there
right.
are going to be clubs out there that offer him well over $1 million a year. And it's a guarantee.
He's Queensland's next cab off the rank as a long-term Origin half.
Yep, and you've got clubs out there chasing people like Aiden Caesar to come back to the NRL and play halves, because there literally is.
You just said it, Jake Clifford.
He
got moved on already from the Cowboys. So,
That's right. That's right. So if I'm Tom Dearden, there's no way I'm signing an extension with the Cowboys. At the very least, I'm going to market and then going back to the Cowboys and saying, hey, here's my offers.
So,
match.
Look, I know that Brisbane appear to be trying to play a little bit of money ball because they've offloaded Flegler, because they've got a couple of young blokes coming through. They've offloaded Herbie Farmworth, knowing that they've got a couple of blokes coming through. Is what's coming through going to reach the level that Herbie and Flegler are at? Maybe, maybe not. It's a risk. But then I'm 100% sure that they did not anticipate that Mann was going to be as good as what he is, and that Walsh was going to be as good as quick as what he is. I think they might have thought, yep, they've got that 350 or 450 or whatever he's on for a couple of years, deal. Great. Then he might have to go up to 600. Well, as you said before, it's going to double end time. He's going up to $1 million.
Oh, absolutely. And I had Ben Eichen on the podcast last year, and it was at the very start of last year before the season kicked off, and I asked him about his halves situation, and he spoke about Ezra Mann, and at that point he hadn't played a game, and he very much viewed Ezra as a 3, 4, 5 year prospect down the line.
Yeah.
The fact that he's been able to come in and be so good, I thought he played his best game last week, that he's played in his career so far, when Reynolds wasn't playing and he had to really sort of step up.
He did well, yeah.
So for him to come in and be as good as he has that quickly, they absolutely did not budget on this.
No.
And so
it happened quick for him too, because he went from South Logan 18s to South Logan 20s to Q Cup within the space of 3 months.
And if you look at the spine of the Broncos, they've got one of the cheapest spines in the NRL.
Yeah.
And the fact that Adam Reynolds is their big sort of fish in the spine, he's only on about 750,000, that's going to drastically change. And I still think the Broncos should be on the lookout for a better 9. Whether they've got one coming through or not, I don't know. But I just think that it's going to be very soon we're going to see Reece Walsh on over $1 million.
Yeah.
If Payne Haas is worth 1.2, Reece Walsh is worth very bloody close.
Did Haas sign for 1.2 or 1.3? I thought it was 1.3.
It might be 1.2, 1.2, 1.3.
So if he's on that, what's Adam Fanua-Blake worth?
Well, exactly.
He's
there'd be a few,
arguably as good. Fisher Harris, arguably as good.
Well, there'd be a few players at the moment looking at their contracts.
Those two in particular. Most of the other blokes are taking the piss, to be honest. They're not in that league, but Fisher Harris and Adam Fanua-Blake are dead set a whisker off Haas.
Well, Fisher Harris is on $1 million.
Well, you know what? And I reckon Fisher Harris probably is. I think he's still better.
He might be still better, but I do like the Payne contract.
Oh, yeah.
Going
No. That's exactly right. And they bring different things to the table. But as it stands, right here and now, runs on the board, Fisher Harris is better.
Well, even Pat Carrigan, his own teammate.
That's right. Yeah, he's good. He's very, very, very good.
Yeah, and he's going to be the next captain, you would think. So he's probably looking at you going, mate, maybe we need to do something here. But the other one is Tino. Tino got a big long
10
extension.
years.
10 years.
10 years
lots
is a
of
long
money.
time.
Isn't it a long time? And I tell you what, good on him.
At 1.2, it's the equivalent. It's identical to Taumalolo's.
It's absolutely identical. And good on him. You're worth whatever someone is willing to pay. Not a deal I would have done if I'm the Titans. And I love Tino.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
I'm all for 5 or 6 years to wrap up blokes like Tino has. You know, there's certain blokes that you would do that for, but 10 years is a long time. Now, I'd argue Taumalolo, Cowboys have got value for money out of him. He's been outstanding. Marketing up there, what he's put his body through, the success that they've had over the time he's been there. I know he's got a couple of years to go on that big deal, and he's declining. He certainly is declining, but they have got value for money. I don't know.
There was a 4-year stretch with Jason Taumalolo. He gave you an immortal level.
Yeah, he did.
Quality. And I actually thought he was on track to being the next immortal. Now, probably not now, but I don't think that there's any question that for a 4-year period there, he's as good as any forward we've ever seen in the game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no question at all. The only thing that would stop him from reaching that echelon of best ever, he never has had a passing game, or he hasn't really had that late offload or that extra little bit of specialness about him, which Haas doesn't have either.
No.
But he may develop it. He's still so young. And we thought Taumalolo might develop it. Still time.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing the Tino deal, seeing the Taumalolo deal, it makes you wonder why spine players haven't gotten those deals, because I'd be much more...
Cherry Evans did.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But I'd be much more keen on signing a fullback or a half than a middle forward for 10 years.
Agree. I'm surprised it hasn't been more, because Manly, again, they would argue that value for money, they've got every cent out of Cherry Evans over the 10 years. I think he's got 1 to go or 2 to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll take a break and be back. 6 to Go is proudly supported by our friends at Mint Sports. And if you're after a bit of humour in your sports life, maybe try out one of their podcasts, maybe daily.
To baseball. So they had the All-Star weekend this week to break things up. Yeah, that should break it up. That should break up the 182-game season. More baseball. Guys, there's a lot of baseball going on. How do we break it up? You want to have another hit? Sure. Sounds good. Everyone gets a week off. Awesome. I haven't seen Dad in 7 months. Oh, no. He's got to play in the All-Star game. Everyone else gets the week off. The baseballers have to keep playing.
Back here with the 6 to Go podcast, and Seives, we are doing our top 5 for the week, and this week we're doing the top 5 players to come from CQ. Now, Seives, tricky one for me. I've got 6, and I'm going to do an honourable mention as the 6th.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's good. I've got an honourable mention as well. I've probably got about 4 of them.
My honourable mention is Reece Wesser.
Before we go,
yes,
we just need to make sure we clarify. We determined in our text exchange that CQ was going to be from Mackay through to Gladstone.
And out to Emerald.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, here we go. So my honourable mention is Reece Wesser.
Yep.
Fantastic player, just did not make my 5. So my number 5 is Harry Grant.
Yeah, look, Harry Grant.
And I think by the end of his career, he'll be much higher on this list.
Yeah, and I think so. Look, you're probably tipping him where you think he'll end up, not necessarily where he is at the moment.
Probably.
But I can't argue Harry Grant at all. And you know what? It's going to be one of those lists where we get to the end of it, and I'm positive that we're going to have forgotten blokes.
Oh, absolutely.
Or I'll have someone that you've forgotten, or you'll have someone I've forgotten. He didn't get into my
top 5.
My top 5, yeah. My 5th was almost a slashy or honourable mention. Yes. I couldn't split them. Jason Hetherington.
Yep.
And Ben Hunt.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't split them. If I had to, I'd go with Butchie Hetherington as my 5, and Hunt drops out to 6.
Well, it's funny. Like, you can't go to... I suppose if you took a few hours, you could, but there's no list of, like, a full list of CQ players.
And when are we going from? Like, we're talking NRL era.
Exactly.
And, like, you know, the first year or two of Hetherington's run was before the NRL era.
That's
so
right.
He sort of splits across that. But
that's right. My number 4 is Matt Singh. The man.
Yeah, very good. He's a good footballer.
Yeah.
Very good.
Who you got?
Wendell Saylor.
Wendell Saylor.
Yeah.
Where's Wendell from?
Serena.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I forgot about Wendell.
Yeah, CQ boy. Grew up getting billeted at my house.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, him and my brother have been mates since they were 8, 9 years old.
Of course they have. Yeah.
Yeah, they're through cricket and footy, so...
Yeah, I forgot about Dell. Yes,
Yeah.
but yes, your brother Anthony and him, very close.
Yeah, groomsmen at each other's weddings.
Yeah, I forgot about Wendell.
Grew up with Wendell at our place all the time.
There you go. My number 3, Ben Hunt, so someone you had on your list.
Yep. Well, my number 3 is Matt Singh.
Matt Singh, there you go. Number 2, DCE.
Singh,
Yes.
outstanding. I would have had Saylor ahead of him, but when Wendell went to rugby and missed those years,
Yeah.
that's the reason why I had Singh in front of him. So DCE is your number 2. He's my number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 1, Money.
Yeah, 100%.
How
Has to
can
be.
you go past him?
Has to be. And he's not even finished yet.
No, and he's well on his track. We spoke about this around Origin time, wrote an article in the paper about it. He is, in my opinion, well on his way to being one of the most dominant represented players of all time.
Yeah, he may not ever win a Daly M because he's just not red hot every
Not
week.
that type of player.
Like Andrew Johns was red hot every week. Jonathan Thurston was red hot every week. So they were good whether it was rep footy or week in, week out footy. Wally was awful until it was rep footy time. Cameron's not awful. He's unreal.
Yeah.
And every second or probably every third or fourth game, he just tears a team apart and wins it on his own.
Yeah.
When it comes to rep footy, he is Cameron Smith, Wally Lewis levels in my opinion, and that might seem like a ridiculous statement, but he is.
I don't think it is. I regard Cameron Smith as the greatest player ever. I don't think there's anyone close. But when the chips are in, I don't think that there's anyone I'd rather have on my side. And when the 2020 series happened, the impossible win, I thought we were no chance. But I always thought, well, we've got Cameron.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's always a chance. So I'm with you. I've got Cameron Smith as the best player that's played. I've got Andrew Johns as a clear outright second. And then Munster's in that rung of blokes jumping into third spot. There's probably 3 or 4 of them that are all a photo finish. I find it funny too. I don't know if you've noticed this. At times, when Cooper Cronk talks about Munster,
Yeah.
and people start saying those types of statements, like how good he is at rep level and he's up there with the greats that have ever played. Have you ever noticed how quickly he tries to put the handbrake on that? I just find that one a little bit interesting.
Well, do you think that's because he disagrees with it?
I don't know if he disagrees. He doesn't like the fact that it's not him that's being mentioned in those terms, or whether it's, when Cameron first went to Melbourne, he was just a young little rat bag. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed it so many times for it not to be, just a little laughing point. Next time you see him speaking about Munster at that level, just listen closely. Take note, yeah.
It's funny about Munster. I saw a highlight the other day. Like the Capras are having their Old Boys Day soon, and I saw some highlights the other day. One of them was Cameron when he was
Burley.
playing.
Yeah, I was assistant coach at Capras.
Was that the intercept?
Yeah, that was the intercept.
Yeah,
and my brother was at Melbourne at the time.
Yeah,
and myself and Cameron had travelled from Rocky to Melbourne for a weekend. Melbourne wanted to sign him. I was going down to do some stuff with my brother for a couple of days. So I went with Cameron because as the perception that people have about him, he was a shy kid. He really was. And so I thought, okay, it's going to be great if I'm going along at the same time. He's got someone he's comfortable with. It was a great couple of days. Anyway, Cameron's gone down. He's done that. Looked around. They toured him around Melbourne, around the facilities. He had all the legends coming and talking to him, and he was like a deer in headlights. Fast forward 2 or 3 weeks later, my brother actually travelled here to Rocky, had a meeting with Cameron. They signed him, locked him down on a contract that was absolutely nothing. They got him a job, a few bucks to play under 20s, with the prospect of, let's see how that goes. There's a chance that we'll keep you on a minimum wage or a rookie deal the following year. So they signed all that. It was a week or 2 later, we've travelled to Gold Coast to play Burley. Cameron did that play.
and for the play that people aren't talking about, so Burley make a break, and it's a 2-on-1, and Cameron at fullback at the time goes for the intercept, gets it, which is just a remarkable play in itself.
Beat 6 or 7 blokes. 2 of them he beat twice. Goes 70 and scored in the corner.
Yeah.
Jumped on the phone at full time, waiting for the boys were coming onto the bus. I rang my brother. Said, mate, jump on YouTube now. You've just got the cheapest deal in history. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, seriously, as soon as we can get this link, you need to see what Cameron's done this afternoon. And then obviously, the rest is history. He's done what he's done. But if he hadn't signed, 2 weeks later, he could have commanded 5 or 6 times more than what he signed for that day.
Yeah. It's.
But I'm pretty comfortable he's sweet now.
I think he's doing all right. I think he's doing all right, Cameron. I don't think we'll see him at the Old Boys Day.
No.
What game are you most excited for this weekend?
Mate, it is a weekend of loser goes home games.
Yeah, it is.
So tonight, we've got the Warriors, Manly. Well, Warriors will seal their top 4 and push for a top 2 spot. Manly lose, they are 100% gone. Yep. They win, they live to fight another day.
And that's all it is, isn't it? Because it's not even like they're guaranteed to be in.
No, that's right. They just live to fight another day. Yeah. They probably put themselves in a better position than the Cowboys because of that 1 point.
A lot of teams will be booking Bali trips this weekend.
Yeah, they will be. Knights and Rabbits, it's not a loser goes home game, but winners safe in my mind.
Yes.
Loser is back treading water.
Who do you think will win that game? Because I think the Knights, if you take out Penrith, I think the Knights have an argument that they're playing the best footy in the NRL.
Yeah, I think the Knights win.
Yep. What a remarkable 8 weeks for the Knights.
Whether the Roosters can make it or not, if they have a chance to make the Rabbits miss in round 27, that will just be, so good. So we've got the other one is the Raiders as well. If they lose, then all of a sudden they're treading water and they're back in the pack. However, the game I'm looking forward to the most is tonight, Parramatta and Roosters. Winner lives to fight another day. Loser is gone.
Just on the Raiders, before you move on to the Parramatta game, if the Raiders don't win this weekend, they don't deserve to be in. If you can't beat the Bulldogs...
Did you see the live ladder last night?
No.
They were showing the live ladder with 5 to go because Cronulla had put themselves up into 4th spot.
Yes.
And they show the ladder and you're looking at it and it's so congested from 4 through to 12. All the for and against are in fairly good nick.
Yeah.
Raiders, negative 120.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how when they've lost, they've been hammered.
So they win close games and lose by a lot.
Yeah,
and that was evidence last week. They got belted by the Storm, and I don't think the Storm were that superb last week.
No,
they were okay, but
they were okay. They also had young Tanumapea and Marion Sevi in the centre.
You're not keen on these centres,
well, mate. Let's be honest. Olam needs to turn his form around,
but Olam's not playing well.
No, he's not.
He doesn't warrant selection.
He's not. Remus Smith comes back. When Pappenhausen plays fullback for them in 2 weeks...
Nick Meaney will play centre.
Nick Meaney will go to the wing and Remus Smith will come back into the centres. Because Remus Smith was on the wing.
Who do you drop on the wing?
Warbrick's already been dropped. He didn't play that.
Suspended.
Was he suspended?
Yes, I think
so. Meaney's ahead of Warbrick.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meaney knows rugby league.
Would you try Meaney at centre?
No, he'd get targeted.
Okay.
Because I think Remus Smith's a fair centre.
Oh, I agree. I really like Remus. Olam's an interesting one. They played... I can't remember who they played a couple of weeks ago. It might have been Penrith. He got absolutely destroyed just on.
He hasn't been the same since that day. Was it Olakau'atu folded him?
Start of the year. Olakau'atu destroyed him.
And he had a HIA?
Yes.
I don't reckon he's been the same since after that HIA.
You might be right. And the rumours are that he's on the block at the moment, that he's free to negotiate. So,
and they love... He was Dally M Centre of the Year. And
Yep. And it's probably a telling sign that they're willing to let him go.
You reckon they just pick him around 27?
Maybe. But I'm not sure young Tanumapea is doing that bad of a job to warrant...
No. Look, and I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. I'm just saying, is a team with young Tanumapea and Marion Sevi in the centres going to win a comp?
No.
That's my whole argument. Who do you reckon's better, Sevi or Tanumapea?
Tanumapea. Although I will say Sevi is certainly better today than he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, He's not as bad as people think he is.
Yeah.
He's okay. And tournament players, look, don't get me wrong, he is okay. He's not, but it's like having Peter Hickey in the centres.
Yeah, it's these guys aren't making.
They're a million times better than what I could ever be.
Of course, but they're not making Dally M teams.
No,
and they're not
and
busting open games.
That's right. And I'm just looking at. Then it goes back to the Roosters, and you think the more I think about it, I don't know. Do we need to be questioning Trent Robinson more? That squad that they've got is top 2. It is ridiculous that they are probably not going to go club. Well, not going to make the 8, I don't think.
No.
Billy Smith is unreal.
Really good player.
Yeah.
Would they have the best centre pairing in the comp?
No.
No.
Only because they don't use Manu properly. He's one of the best players in the comp, but
they'd be right up there, though.
They would be. They would be. A fit Isaac Tungo and Crichton are probably the best.
Yep.
Farnworth and Katoni Staggs are good.
Yep.
The
Brandon Smith,
they would be.
The Brandon Smith usage, I think, needs to be questioned because they bought him as an 80-minute hooker. Now he's playing 35 minutes off the bench.
Yeah. And they look better when Sandon Smith's on, don't they?
That's telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
There probably does need to be some question around recruitment, whether Trent Robinson's the person in the gun at the moment.
But either way, you've got that squad assembled in front of you.
Yep.
They just should be doing better.
They've underperformed.
But your key positions, hooker and halfback,
Struggling.
Yeah. Which is why Tedesco hasn't had a Tedesco season.
Yep.
He still will look at the stats at the end of the year, and he would have been in the top 10 for run meters, maybe top 5. Tackle breaks, he'll be in the top 5. He'll tick all those boxes, but he just hasn't had the season that he normally has because he's not being unlocked properly.
Good week of footy ahead. Seibs will do it all again on Monday.
Thanks, mate.
This has been the 60 Go podcast, brought to you by